Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Create with Alex Blake. I'm your host, Alex Blake, and this week we have a guest on the pod. Everyone, welcome Rachel Traxler. Say hey, Rachel.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I know we've done one before, so it's fun to show up on your podcast now.
Yes. Yeah. If you guys don't know, Rachel has her own podcast, and I was on it a couple weeks ago. We talked all about the honey book debacle.
It was a good one. A lot of people really liked it.
It was so much fun. As we're talking, I have like an eyelash in my eye. It's fine. So if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to be seeing me like dig in my eyeball for an eyelash. But I know you're rubbing your eyes now. Like anyone driving is also rubbing their eyes. Sorry, guys. I feel like it's contagious, but anyway, yeah, I loved that episode. I feel like something that's really fun about Rachel and I is like when we talked about it, it was literally just like whatever came to our mind is what everyone heard. So this time I have some questions, but we were even talking before this, like, let's just yap and see what comes out. You know, sometimes that's like, yeah, the best way to live life is just like, it's not that serious. It's just kind of for fun. But what I also love about Rachel is that she's an educator and she's a podcaster and she loves pouring into our photography community, which you guys know I also care a lot about. But Rachel, I think you're just really smart, like, which is such like a simple word to use, but I genuinely see it like in the way that you coach people. You're very strategic and you just have like a lot of meaning behind the things that you do, which I think is a really cool and unique thing because sometimes when we're entrepreneurs, like especially in the creative world, we're just kind of doing our own thing, living our lives, you know, but you're very strategic and I love that about you. So
wow. You have no idea how much that means to me because like my entire life, I've always felt insecure of thinking I'm not smart and kind of like just played into it being like, oh, I'm not smart, you know, but it's just such a testament to show of like when you find your thing in life that you're passionate about, that you're good at, that you care about like serving other people with and you lead with that like serving heart, like that's just like, it comes natural to you. And that's kind of, I think I found my thing there. So I just want you to know that means so much to me because that's something I've never always thought about myself. So
that's really cool. Cause like, I'm being so genuine. Like when I see you on social media, that's what I think. Like she is smart. She's strategic. She's on top of it. And I love that. And it doesn't come from a place of like feeling like I'm not, you know what I mean? Feeling like it's like insecure, but it does come from a place of like seeing you kill it in life. So I'm just like excited to get to chat with you about it. And I love that it like hits home for you in a cool way when I say that. But speaking of strategy and all the things, one of the things that Rachel and I were talking about, I sent her like a little questionnaire and said like, hey, what do you want to talk about in the podcast? And the first thing you said was sales funnels. So I feel like that is such a fun thing because it is so strategic. And I want to like dive into that with you. And so basically I wanted you to just start with like, okay, what is a sales funnel? Like, let's start with the basic and go from there.
Let's keep it basic because I think a lot of people, because especially as photographers, we are such creative entrepreneurs. We do not think about the business stuff as much. I actually just arguably love the business side and I love the people. I love the people that I get to work with in the industry, but like, man, I love business. And I think it's really cool when you compare those things together. And a lot of people say like, they don't even know what a funnel is. It's almost like whoosh, like right over their head. And in simplest form, it's basically the process in which someone is finding you to them actually booking with you. And so it's that kind of process. And you think about it, sales funnels are in every single buyer decision we make for anything. Yes, we are service-based providers, and that's kind of where our minds are at thinking with that. So we have to put a little bit more effort into like the actual communication and the connection and helping foster that like relationship to a sale because we are a service-based provider. But think about even just buying something on Amazon. Like there is a buyer's process journey going on subconsciously in our head from the time of awareness to the time of purchase of anything we do. And it's in simple form, that's what it is.
That's really cool. So it's basically taking your client from A to Z. Like if Z is the delivery of the photos, the check mark of like, I have worked with this client and I can now archive them in Honeybook, it's like, it's like all of the entire process. I love that you said like sometimes photographers don't really think of it like that, because I do think a lot of photographers would know they need to work on what you're saying a sales funnel is, but they might word it differently. They might think it's just client experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and use a word like that. Do you agree with that?
Well, to kind of, if you wanted to even narrow it down more than that, because yes, client experience is like the whole experience. When I'm even talking about like, we can make this simpler and shorter. Yeah. When I'm thinking about the sales funnel, we can think of just time of awareness to booking, and we don't have to, and then everything that happens after that, that's a different phase. That's a whole other thing.
Yes.
Like the booking process, the, like the onboarding, the nurturing, the delivery, the offboarding, that's all like workflow and a client experience for sure. But if you wanted to, Alex, to kind of keep it like in simpler form for this episode, we can just talk about like awareness to booking.
Yeah, I love it.
Shorter.
I love that. Okay, so why do you think it's important that photographers have a sales funnel for the awareness to the booking time?
I mean, I guess any business in general, because if you think about it, I mean, I hear a lot of photographers say like, I'm either like, I need more visibility. I'm not getting as many leads as I once was, or maybe I'm not converting them. All of those issues can get fixed when you fix your funnel. Sure. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. And like, hey, you might be doing really good. Like right now, hey, I'm getting a lot of inquiries, but maybe I'm not converting them. Okay. Now you're aware of that. You're aware of that funnel, what maybe now look and see if there's any bottlenecks or gaps that are happening in that specific funnel from that specific lead generator. You can have like different ways of kind of going about that, but it's just going to be power in knowing where you're getting hung up and where things are happening, instead of, it breaks my heart to see so many photographers being like, inquiries are just low. Things just aren't happening. It's like, two things can be true. Like that, yes, maybe that is happening to you, but what are you doing as a business owner to step up and take accountability and responsibility of like, I don't know, I always kind of put things back in my lap of like, okay, what can I do to change that though?
Yeah.
Instead of just sit and play victimhood about it, like, oh, everyone says inquiries are low, I'll just wait. Well, things aren't really going to happen for you if you do that. You got to kind of take it by the reins and do it yourself.
It's so good. It's like problem solving, right? Like there's a problem. But the first thing is to like nail down what the problem is, because that's going to show you where the breakdown is, and then creating a plan that's active instead of waiting, which is passive. So I love that, Rachel. We're always on the same page. It makes me so happy.
I love it.
But okay, so tell us a little bit, like obviously if it's a product on Amazon, they're going to have a different sales funnel than somebody who's service-based, like a photographer. So tell us what maybe like the key components of a sales funnel should be as a photographer.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're kind of thinking about, if you want to have like a visualization in your head about like maybe what a funnel will look like. So you have like this funnel here, and like it kind of, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll know. It's kind of like a funnel here, and like there's the top funnel here, and that's kind of like the awareness and just kind of like the visibility and like just coming across it and kind of knowing it. Cool. And then if they're interested, and like you kind of have to create that spark to create that, like, I don't know, interest, I guess, and then there's like kind of like that middle section that is creating that interest. So then like even a little bit down, there's like the awareness. That's like the lead gen part. They're like, okay, we found you. We're interested. We like it. Now here's where like we get a little bit more interested. We actually reach out. That's more of like the middle. And then there's like another middle section where it's like, I'm actually filling out your form. I'm getting communication with you. Like we're talking back and forth. And then at the very bottom, obviously, is like that conversion. So it's like, if you think about it, like little sections of like top, middle, conversion, like the bottom part of your funnel. The top funnel, like the very top part, is like that visibility awareness section. That's where it's going to be really important to be like, what are your lead generators? We have social media, we have Google, we have client referrals, we have vendor referrals, we have all these different avenues of like visibility and lead generation. And I think a lot of people get mixed up in thinking visibility equals more bookings. There's a lot, as I just explained, that needs to happen from that awareness to that conversion, that a lot of people get hung up on, like, I need more Instagram followers. I need more eyes on my business. That's all great. And yes, more visibility will equal more bookings.
Yes.
if you have funnels.
Yes.
And
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For each. Mm-hmm.
That's so good. I know honestly quite a few people who have a lot of followers on Instagram and it's not converting. Like it doesn't convert into money for them. So and just like clients and bookings in general. So I love that you mentioned that because followers are not the goal. Followers can be helpful towards the goal, but it's what you do with them that actually matters. And that does go back to the funnel. So, okay, if that first part is visibility and some of those things, really essentially it's like marketing, right? Like how are you marketing? How are you being seen?
Yep. Your different avenues there that and then each of those are going to have different funnels.
Yeah. Okay.
The funnel if someone's finding you on Instagram, that funnel is going to be different than if someone found you on Google. Like that's where all of these things are different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're going to be set up slightly different. Same essential thing. You're getting them to your contact form. Like that's the end goal, right? Like to get them to fill out your contact form. Not the end goal, but like the goal of like that bottom middle, you know? And so it's all leading people there. But someone's action that they might take from social media might be different from someone who Googles you and finds your blog posts and then like has to like find your contact form, you know, like you want to make it as simple and short and like the least amount of steps as possible. Cause I know even just for example, some people even on Instagram will be like, if someone DMs them, then they're like, okay, well, go to my bio and then click my form and then my contact form is in there. But then their bio has like a Linktree link that has all a bunch of different links. Yeah. And then one of them's just to their website homepage. And then they got to go to their homepage and then they got to find their contact form. And then they have to scroll 3 times to even find their contact form on their contact page. And then their contact form is long. It's asking unnecessary questions. I mean, there's so many.
They're just overwhelmed.
And then they're overwhelmed. And man, that is way too many clicks for a funnel, let me tell you. Yeah. So
I love it. So it's really simplifying the funnel. So obviously you just described kind of the wrong way to do it, if you will. What about maybe the right way to do it? If they're finding you on, say, social media, because that's just an easy, graspable kind of place, what should the funnel be?
So if it can be, it depends on what type of content. If it's whether it's a post, a story, whether someone just comes across your Instagram page, for example. So say it's a post, for example. You always have a lot of people, it sounds so simple. A lot of people that I especially like do audits and stuff for, they don't have strong call to actions. And it's not, and even within the content, having something that kind of like activates people of wanting to even have a call to action. It's like creating that like, oh, I should do the call to action and I should do that. And then even if you wanted to do like a keyword automation, you don't necessarily have to have many chats to do this, especially because I feel like when you are speaking to like potential brides or couples or whatever, naturally, just to even get over them naturally, there's going to be less engagement. There's going to be less people commenting on that because it's a very like targeted, higher level, higher ticket type of service, you know? So say 5 people comment on it. It's pretty easy to manually go in and do the automations if you want, if you will. I'm just going to use the automation, for example. So then you can say like your call to action of like comment this or whatever. And then they directly get something sent to them that has just your contact form link. You know what I mean? And just having that link sent to them, or even just having something on your story, for example, of tap here if you want this. And then it's not, because a lot of people do the link thing and then that takes people off Instagram and that takes your engagement. So it's something like that where you can say like, just tap here for like the little heart. And then all those people that tapped it, you can just send your contact form link or something like that.
Yeah, I love that. Or even like a question box, because the question box like keeps it all in one place for you. You can go back and look at it if you have it highlighted on your page, you know? Yeah, it makes it super simple. I love that. Just like simplifying it. Easy for people, easy for us, you know, like.
And less clicks. I think people, when you think of clicks and scrolls, so like I was saying, like even like people's contact forms are like not in the top fold of that page. They're not the first thing. And then people have to scroll and you just don't want to send people have to like find it. Like you want it to be as simple as possible. And even the questions people are asking in contact forms are sometimes too much or sometimes completely unnecessary. Like you don't need that. you don't need certain questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So keeping things shorter, simpler, less clicks.
Okay. So let's say somebody's booking, let's do a couples shoot for just like the example.
Yeah.
What are some questions that you feel like are necessary to have on your booking form versus like unnecessary?
Any question that they have to think about. Any question that I know it's really easy for us to want to be like, tell us all about you. Tell us everything you're envisioning. Well, they might not know. Tell us your budget. They might not know. You know what I mean? Or at least I've taken that as, I actually just recently completely took it off of my contact form just to test it out and kind of see how I like it.
Yeah.
But at least if you have it as not required. Because when I have been finding, like reaching out and finding services places, anytime that's a required field for me as a creative entrepreneur in this space, I don't know what to put and I don't reach out. Like that could be completely stopping you from getting inquiries. Anything they really have to think about and take brain power for. Something I also recently added on my contact form, because I do a lot of custom proposals for my weddings and stuff like that. I know it's weddings versus sessions, but something I just recently added was a little question that it was like, would you prefer I send my standard pricing or would you want to create a custom proposal together? And then that kind of gives me an idea, because then every inquiry I get, I analyze that contact form and I respond to them based on what they need, based on, their buyer type, based on if I think they're right or left brain thinking, how much belief shifting I think they need to have, if they need to have any, what like are their basic, like what are the needs that they need to feel seen and heard and all of that stuff. So all of my responses are completely customized based on those things, on what they need. So if I think they're more left brain thinking, I'm going to give more analytical, data driven responses. I'm probably going to send my pricing right away because that's what they want. If there's someone who are more right brain thinkers and all that stuff, and they want to feel a part of the process, they want to get creative with it, I might offer to do a phone call before I send pricing. So it all varies and it's all very different.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. It's fun to think about that too, because I mainly do graduating seniors. And I think it's just a little bit more standard for like my pricing for what they want, the packages they can pick. It is just like, I do have everything automated because I can for that.
That makes sense for you.
When I work with brands, it's not. And I went through some trial phases with this where it was automated and it was really hard because then brands would have to come back to me and be like, none of your packages fit what I need. And I'm sure that I lost some because of it too. Like I was too automated with them. And then that was the hiccup, right? Where it was like, then they would never book me or follow back up. And I'm like, I wonder what's going on with that, you know, like, and it's because it was too rigid for them. They needed the custom. So I love that because it is like easy to pinpoint where the drop off is when you're analyzing it like that. That's cool.
Yeah, well, that's such a good point too that you made, Alex, too, because it's like everyone's going to look different. You doing seniors makes complete sense. What it would just be like cut and dry, straightforward. Here's what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People who maybe do elopements or weddings or families or brands, it's going to look different for everyone. And so that's where you need to like analyze your own situation of what that looks like.
Yeah. And really just what's working. Like that's the question is what's working and what's not working. Yeah. It's like, it's as simple as that. And then, but then what we have to do is like, okay, what's working we keep, right? Or we try to tweak just to make even better. But the what's not working is where we really hone in on and, you know, fix the funnel. So I love that. Well, I know we were talking about like using social media specifically, like, okay, if they find you on Instagram, this is kind of the less clicks, all that kind of stuff really matters. But one thing that I hear a lot is that like photographers have to be on social media. And I disagree with that. And I don't think like if somebody doesn't want to be on social media, you do not have to. Is it helpful for visibility? Absolutely. Yes. But if you are like, this is not healthy for me, I compare myself, like I get stuck in a scroll of doom, you know, like if that is like how you are in life, don't be on social media. So what are some other ways to begin funnels and what do those funnels look like if it isn't social media?
Yeah, I love this question just because I love social media, but also like realistically, it's not always like I'm not always able to show up consistently and show up in all of that stuff. But it's something that's really fun because I've been tracking. I was doing like a little TikTok challenge and I was tracking my inquiries on where they were all coming from and how often I was getting them and all that stuff. And Instagram was like my fourth or fifth lead generator, and like Google vendor referrals and photographer referrals, Google mostly SEO, blew it out of the water. Cool. So Instagram was one of my lowest. And what I took from that was awesome. Like I then don't have to show up on social media as much to know that I have other forms of lead generation working for me, and whatever other forms those are for you, analyze those. But then even taking it a step further too, it's like, okay, well, most of my inquiries were from Google, but how many of those actually converted? Like, so not only just where my top lead generators were, but what was my top conversion lead generator to take it a little bit a step deeper. So, there's I think the easiest way, because it's just like networking and it's not extra work, of like vendor relationships, partnerships, working with other photographers as like a referral system, having a really solid referral system for past clients, all of those things. Then you kind of get into the bigger things of like the Google, the SEO, the Pinterest, like the bigger game stuff that takes a lot more energy, and like strategy and effort. But very worth it, like the blogging and all that stuff. Very worth it in the long run when that's just inquiries are just coming in that you just don't even have to worry about. But also like vendor relationships and other photographer referrals, those work really well too, that you don't have to feel like you're working in the real time, effort.
Well, let's talk about that, because I do think like networking and having vendor relationships and just having like friend relationships in general in life is really good, for us having like what feels like coworkers around us. And as an entrepreneur, like that is really great. But also I do agree, like that is such a sweet spot for having other people connect you to clients, So what does the sales funnel look like, in your mind or for your own business when a vendor is the one who refers rather than a social media post?
Yeah. And so think about vendors, like how are the couples you have to kind of put yourself in the couple's position at the venue, because I have a lot of really good venue partnerships and collaborations that I get a lot of inquiries from venues. And so I kind of have to put myself in their shoes of like, okay, I'm this couple and I am touring this venue here. What am I thinking? I am here and I'm looking at an empty venue. How am I envisioning this? And then like offering, like thinking about, okay, then how are those two going to be pieced together? Something that I've done is offer albums of venues that I have shot at before. So then that way the couple at the venue can then be holding this tangible thing, this tangible album, being like, I'm looking at this blank space right here, and I'm looking at this tangible album, and I'm looking at what this space could look like. And this photographer is the one who got like, obviously there's a huge team of like the florals, the setup, like it's not just me, but like this photographer is the one who's bringing that to life for me right now. And I love this. And I want this. And then having like a QR code on the last page, or like having things that like to your contact form. How are they then reaching out to you before they leave? You know what I mean? So what are you providing the venue to give to their couples and all of that stuff? And even thinking about like, inquiry bonuses, like what do they get a little fun bonus for touring and for inquiring with you while they're touring, all of that stuff. So you really just want them to get into your inbox from that venue. So either having QR codes, having the album there, having a QR code in the album, and all of that stuff, and reaching out.
This is really cool. I love like the innovation even of having like the physical thing for the venue to show. It's something you don't have to do anything for. Like all you do is provide the album and say, hey, I would love if, you would show this or whatever. And they of course want to too, because these beautiful photos that show off their venue even more, So I love that too, because it's something like, it's the question of how can I stand out? And every photographer, for the most part, is posting on social media, but not every photographer has a physical album in front of clients before they ever book. Like, That's a beautiful piece of innovation and problem solving before the problem's ever even created. I love that.
That's exactly.
I also love like how, yes, it's still streamlined with ease of what you said, but it is very unique to like, it's very different than what you just said for social media too. So I almost feel like the first step for photographers, correct me if I'm wrong, is besides thinking about where's the problem, is thinking about where they're getting visibility or where they want to get visibility. And then, like you said, creating that funnel based on that specific thing. Is that right?
Yeah. No, totally that is. But then I think to take it even a step further that a lot of people don't do or don't think or realize is that there's different buyer types. We all make purchasing decisions from different ways. So then you have these different forms of lead generation, you have these different funnels, but now how are you speaking and communicating and serving to the different buyer types? Because then that's really going to hit it, really going to nail it home there. Because it's like, okay, I have this, but then am I speaking to, because the buyer types that I kind of use and think of are like the dreamer buyer, the connection buyer, and the realist buyer. So the dreamer buyer is like, they've had you picked out as their photographer since they were 16 years old. Like they don't care. They know they're going with you. The connection buyer is someone who like maybe once they connect with you, they need to hear a little bit more. And then they're like, they feel like, I don't know, that they feel like they can be drawn to you in that way. Yeah. The realist buyer is someone who's maybe like left brain thinkers. They want the data. They want the analytics. They might be someone who's maybe price shopping a little bit. They want the details and all of that stuff. And so how are you serving people like that? Because a lot of people think, oh, well, maybe if they're say that we value connection because we are like creative entrepreneurs and all that stuff, or we really want dreamer buyers, right? We really want, as a photographer, we really want people to be like, we don't care. Like, we know we want you. That's obviously ideal that we'd really love that. That a lot of people write off left brain thinkers and realist buyers as non-ideal clients when that is not the case. That is not the case at all. So it's like, how are you also serving them? That's something that we forget to do because I feel like we are creative, like thinkers that way. And so how are you giving them like content or data or graphics or things like that that are speaking to them in your blog posts, on your website, in your initial inquiry response, on your contact form, in just the verbiage that you're using when you respond, when you analyze those inquiries and you respond to them. There's a lot that can be tailored to that. So I think something like a mistake that I just see a lot of people do is they don't have multiple funnels or like lead generation, and then they don't have funnels set up for those, and then they aren't speaking to different buyer types.
Yeah, I love that too, because I do think like honing in on what you want as an ideal client in your audience, like who is it, name that person, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't be one of those three things. You know what I mean? Like you could say my ideal client is named Jane. She is 18 years old and she, you know, like you can name your client and desire to have that as your ideal, but there might be three different types of Janes that all fit under that. And one of them is the dreamer and one of them is the connection. You know, like it doesn't negate that just because you have an ideal client at the same time. So I love that you mentioned that. Okay, well, two more questions then, I guess.
Yes.
If someone, I know, I'm like thinking, you got my wheels turning. So if somebody currently does not have a funnel, maybe they've never even heard of this until right now. And it kind of might feel overwhelming if somebody's never heard of a sales funnel before or never started on one. What do they need to do? Like give them the absolute basics.
Basic. Like first things first, before anything, you need to figure out what your top lead generators are. Because if you're someone who's like, oh, well, I should try TikTok and I should be doing Pinterest and I should be doing blogging. I should be doing all these things. You're going to spread yourself so thin.
Right.
But also I want to challenge you. If right now, if you're listening to this and I'm asking you what your top lead generator is and it's Instagram, you might want to add on another lead generator that doesn't require everyday attention. You might want to look into that. So I would say, figure out your top lead generator. And I was even just talking to someone yesterday. They're like, well, I don't know. How would I figure that out? Well, she didn't have it on her contact form of how they found her. That needs to be on your contact form. So then you can actually track the data of where your inquiries are coming from. So you need to have that. Figure out your top lead generator. Even to take it a step further, figure out your top converter too. So again, so say maybe Instagram is your top lead generator, but 1 out of 10 weddings are booking you, and then you maybe like Google is your second lead generator and you have 5 inquiries, but all 5 booked you. Like that's going to be your top converter. So then you're going to be able to know where to then put a little bit more effort and energy and adding in those different buyer types, levels of content type of things to those lead generators. So I would say first things first, before you start stretch yourself thin, figure that out.
Yeah, that's really, really good. And I think it's so like helpful to just hear it be like, okay, this is my next step. Like just one thing for now, take it like a step by step. It doesn't need to feel overwhelming. Okay, last question. If somebody is stuck because they do have a sales funnel, but it just doesn't feel like it's working, whether that's either not getting enough inquiries or it's not converting, what the heck do they do? If they're like, yeah, I hear you, Rachel, I'm trying to do all of that stuff, but it's just not working.
Great question. Where are people falling off? Are people either, I'm assuming maybe people are inquiring with you, say, but then they're not responding to that initial inquiry that you're responding back to? Well, then maybe you need to do some deep dive on analyzing that initial inquiry response to speak to those different human, like the basic needs, their love languages, their buyer types, all of that stuff. Do you need to send pricing beforehand? Do you need to do a custom proposal? Do you need to get them on the phone first? I would say if that's it, analyze your inquiry form more. Mm-hmm. If you're sending things and they're responding to you and they're scheduling a phone call, but they're not showing up for the phone call, or maybe you can't get them to schedule a phone call, then you need to look at like your call to actions and what you're doing into like, is there too much information at once? Like there, or are people dropping off after you send pricing? What in your pricing guide is not communicating that? What in the process is like overwhelming them or whatever? And then if they're not responding, well, what follow-up method are you doing? And what strategies are you doing for your follow-up method? There's a lot of areas and a lot of ways that can be broken in this initial like booking, like basically the booking funnel process. Mm-hmm. So figure out where people are dropping off, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just not getting any inquiries. I'm not getting any bookings or anything like that. I think I need to lower my prices. It's like, well, why did you come to that conclusion? They don't even know your prices yet. And you're like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. They don't even know what they are. Well, exactly. Well, also look, do you have pricing on your website or do you not? If you need a boost in inquiries, maybe take pricing off your site. If you are overloaded and you're getting too many inquiries, but you're not converting them, look at that. But then also maybe put what prices on your site. There's different ways. And this is why I do a lot of like customization with my coaching, because everyone is so different and that's going to look different for everyone. But also just don't come to the conclusion that it's just your prices right away, because that's what a lot of us do. We're like, absolutely, oh, I'm charging too much. I'm too much. I need to lower my prices. It's like, well, that's not necessarily
not always. Yeah.
Not always the case. Yeah.
I love that. And I think honestly, like just to take it one step further, sometimes people will come to the conclusion of they're just not cut out for this. Like they're not cut out to be a photographer. They're not cut out to be a full-time photographer because they just can't figure it out. And that's not the case either. No. Like you have to be strategic and look at things with like a critical eye and be able to really think through each step of your process, because there's just something broken. The thing that's broken isn't you. Like, exactly. You know what I mean? Like you've got this, guys. You can do this, but it does take some strategic thinking and some work with follow-up and action too. So Rachel, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you came on the podcast, got to hang out with us. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find and follow you and listen to your podcast?
Yes, I would love that. Well, you can just find me on Instagram at Rachel Traxler and all the things there. Feel free to reach out. I love my DMs are always open. Yeah. And then my podcast is the Gold Biz podcast. So we have a fun episode with Alex over there, which if you listen to this one, I'm sure you'll love that one.
I love it. Okay. Well, I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys next Thursday. You've been listening to Let's Create with Alex Blake, and I'm your host, Alex Blake. See ya.